So having bought the Sprinter and being very pleased with it, as usual, the tyres that came with it were just budget tyres and absolutely rubbish. I'd always intended to put the BFGoodrich All-Terrains onto the camper van once it was finished. I'd had them before on a Land Rover Defender and got about 50,000 miles out of them, so I was really impressed. And I'd always regretted not putting them on the Sprinter that we had before. However, as always happens, before I got around to changing all the tyres, I had a puncture on the way up to Ardnamurchan Point during the summer and had to replace the 2 rear tyres with Bridgestones. So in principle I don't really need 4 new tyres, but I'm going to give the 2 Bridgestones to my daughter for her camper van conversion, and that way I can have new all-terrains on all corners. So it was time to bite the bullet and get them ordered before I had another puncture, which meant I had to buy a tyre I didn't want. And this is when I made my life completely overcomplicated by not thinking straight, when I started to work out what size of tyre I needed to order. So at this point I'm working on the fact I need 235mm wide tyres, 65% of the width in height on 16-inch rims. Go on the Goodrich site, guess what? They don't do that size. So then I go back and check the Bridgestones, and whilst they're supposed to be 235mm wide tyres, the tread's only about 200mm wide. So back on the Goodrich site, and the closest thing I can get with a load rating that I would need are the 225/75s. I'm very sure I don't want tyres that narrow, so onto YouTube to find out what other people have been doing. The majority consensus on YouTube was for the 245/75 on 16-inch rims. As always with YouTube, nothing straightforward. Levi Allen had to grind his wheel arch down. The Indie Project had a van that had been lifted 5 centimetres, and so it went on. Anyway, I'd been on the Aponio site looking at prices for tyres, and got some really good advice on there, not least of which is their tyre comparison chart. So as I'm using this comparison tool, a light bulb starts to go on, because I noticed the difference between the 245/75 speed and the 235/65s, which relates to about the 8%. And having had a year's experience driving the Sprinter, I know that the speed I've been driving at has been about 10% under the actual speedometer reading. Anyway, I carry on digging around, and then I come across a site that states the absolute obvious and makes me realise what a complete idiot I've been. It just says, check the manual. Let there be light, as the saying goes. Actually, it's payback for all the times I told the kids to look at the instructions when they came asking why things didn't work. So obviously the following comes with the caveat that this is information for my van, which is a 313 CDI long wheelbase 2016 European version of the Sprinter. So as you can see, my van has a permissible front axle load of 1,650 kilograms and a rear axle permissible load of 2,250 kilograms, and in both cases the 245/75 16s are stated as tyres that can be used. So going back to the speedometer issue, if these are the biggest tyres you can put on the Sprinter, then if I were Mercedes, I would set the speedo to these tyres, but that's just a thought. Chances are that if you're buying a second-hand Sprinter, you might not get a manual. So I had a look around on the internet, and there are quite a few sites with Sprinter manuals. You just have to search for Sprinter manual. Anyway, time to stop procrastinating and bite the bullet and get on with it. I got a really good deal with Quick Fit in Oban for 4 tyres, balanced and fitted. All done. I drove the 20 miles back to base, and these are my first impressions. There is definitely more road noise, although it's not intrusive or offensive. The van is much better planted on the road. It doesn't have that driving a ship feel that the old tyres had. The tyre clearance is just fine with the wheels pointing forward, so the backs are great. The fronts do rub. However, the rubbing, such that it is, and it's not a lot, is only when the steering wheel is at its absolute limit, which is kind of when the pump starts to complain a bit. Good reminder not to strain the steering wheel pump, and obviously you only get to that limit if you're manoeuvring at slow speeds. But really it's not an issue. It's more of a gentle warning not to strain the steering wheel pump. Big bonus, given where I live, is all the potholes in the road were just ignored by these tyres, so huge win. That's pretty much my story for the All-Terrains. I will post in the comments if I am very concerned or there are some surprising issues with the tyres once I start to get some mileage, for example if the speedo's completely out. But at the moment, those are my first impressions. 20 miles, comfortable with the decision, it's all good.